Hi, and welcome to True Crime Talk. Today I'm going to discuss the case of Betty Williams. Her full name is Elizabeth Jean Williams. She was born in 1943 in Odessa, Texas, and she was killed in 1961 in Odessa, Texas. In March of 1961, she was found dead in a stock pond on Waddell Ranch. Her parents reported her missing after she didn't show up for breakfast that morning and she didn't go to school that day, so they realized that she had snuck out of the house in the middle of the night. Her classmates said that she snuck out of her home in the middle of the night to spend time with a boy. So she was dating this boy, so in the middle of the night he picked her up in his car and they went and had a date or did whatever they did. But then that boy brought her back home and said that she got into a car with another classmate named John Mack Herring, who went by the name Mac, a 17-year-old football player at her high school. And Mac used to be her ex-boyfriend. They had broken up when he caught her cheating, apparently, or he found out that she was cheating, and so he broke up with her in disgust. So the police, of course, asked questions of her friends and family members, and they found out about Mac, that Mac was the last person that she was seen with. And so the police talked to Mac Herring, and he told them that yes, he did kill her, but that she had asked for it. Literally, he said she had asked him to kill her. Mac said she wanted to commit suicide but wanted him to do it for her. So Mac's story was that they rode out to the country and parked their car, or parked his car, and talked about how he would kill her. Mac said it went down like this. This is Mac's story. He said Betty got out of the car and got down on her hands and knees, and she was in her pink pajamas, and asked him to pull the trigger. Mac had a shotgun. He said before he shot Betty that she gave him a kiss. And then Mac proceeded to shoot her in the head with a shotgun, almost decapitating her because it was at close range and a shotgun is, of course, a powerful weapon. And after he killed her, after she supposedly asked him to kill her, he wrapped her body up and weighted it down with something heavy and then dumped it in the stock pond. Detectives had stated that Mac told his story in vivid detail and without emotion. Okay, of course, upon hearing Mac's story, Betty's family did not believe him. They did say that Betty would be sad sometimes, but that she was in no way suicidal. Of course, this case was shocking to the community of Odessa, Texas back in 1961. Many thought highly of both of the kids. Well, at least, a lot of adults thought highly of both of the kids. Mac was a popular, good-looking football player. Betty was thought to be pretty and smart. And so it was shocking to the community. But in speaking with Betty's friends, they did find out that she had another life that her parents didn't necessarily know anything about. Her parents thought she was a good kid and said that she was sensitive, very studious, and religious. But kids that knew her said she was promiscuous and that she basically slept around with a lot of boys at the high school, and that she would sneak out of the house a lot without her parents knowing. She was also known to be a good writer, which you will see or you will hear later on when I read you her supposed suicide letter or note. She left a letter and it was in her own handwriting. Everybody agreed that it was her handwriting, that it was something that she did write. So at a hearing for Mac, because he was arrested for murder, because I mean he admitted to shooting her in the head with a shotgun, and then of course he wrapped up her body and weighted it down in water. So I mean that's clearly murder in any state in this nation back in 1961, and even today, that is a murder. When you intentionally kill somebody, that is murder. So at Mac's hearing, they read Betty's letter, and the letter said, quote, "I want everyone to know that what I'm about to do in no way implicates anyone else. I say this to make sure that no blame falls on anyone other than myself. I have depressing problems that concern, for the most part, myself. I'm waging a war within myself, a war to find the true me, and I fear that I am losing the battle. So rather than admit defeat, I'm going to beat a quick retreat into the no man's land of death, as I've as I have only the will and not the fortitude necessary. A friend of mine, seeing how great is my torment, has graciously consented to look after the details. His name is Mac Herring, and I pray that he will not have to suffer for what he is doing for my sake. I take upon myself all blame, for there it lies on me alone." Betty Williams. So that is the suicide letter that Betty wrote in her own handwriting. But she didn't write it that night. Apparently she wrote it days earlier. I don't know exactly how. I couldn't find how much earlier she wrote it, and had given it to Mac. See, they used to be boyfriend and girlfriend, but like I said, Betty was promiscuous or dated around a lot, so he, got wind that she was dating somebody else or had messed around with another boy, so he broke up with her, and it devastated Betty. So here's what her classmates seem to think. They think Betty was indeed suicidal, that she had tried to commit suicide before, apparently, because to my understanding, this is only what Betty told her classmates. They didn't actually witness any of this. To my knowledge, this is just what she said. And some of her classmates said that she was very dramatic, so they didn't really take her seriously. So apparently Betty, like I said, she's a good writer. Apparently she was good at making up stories, or, possibly being overly dramatic, or maybe she was a pathological liar. So they didn't take her seriously. So according to her friends, she was suicidal, and she had told them that she had one time tried to jump off the roof of the school but couldn't do it. She had one time taken 4 aspirin to try to commit suicide, and of course that didn't kill her. But these are things that Betty told her friends. This isn't things that they witnessed or that there's any proof of. So everybody knew and felt, she did write that note. She was upset and depressed that Mac had broken up with her, and she was desperate to get him back. She had wrote him letters, apologizing and trying desperately to get him back. She apologized for being, I think some of the words she used was, I apologize for the dirty deeds I did, and stuff like that. So apparently she really felt, or how young people think, she really thought that she was in love with him and needed and wanted to be with him, but he didn't want nothing to do with her as far as being a serious girlfriend. But of course he did see her and hang around with her, and I guess it was just to use her for sex, because they were still friends, still friendly, and still hung out together. But she wanted him back as her boyfriend, and he didn't want that. Apparently, even when they were boyfriend and girlfriend, it wasn't like a true relationship, that you share with your parents and your schoolmates, that everybody knows you're going together or whatever. Apparently, to Betty, he just, he didn't like show her off to his friends, and that he didn't introduce her to his parents and stuff like that. But remember, according to classmates and boys at her school, she, went around with a lot of boys or dated a lot of boys and had sexual relations with a lot of boys. And so, maybe Mac, obviously didn't take her seriously as a girlfriend. And so he did use her and she felt used. But yet, even though she cheated on him and he broke up with her when he found out, she still felt the need or the desire to be with him again, and she couldn't stand that he wasn't her boyfriend anymore, even though the relationship wasn't much of a relationship, because he was just using her for sex, basically. But so she was devastated about all this, and she trying to win him back, she gave him that suicide letter. And she talked about it, and her friends thought she was just being overly dramatic. But apparently, Mac decided to take her up on her offer one day. And I don't know what made him decide to go through with that, but it could be maybe he was just tired of her. She was, a very dramatic person. She was annoying to him. Or did he really feel some kind of sympathy for her, that she couldn't live in this world, that she was always talking about suicide, and that she wanted to go be in heaven because she thought it would be beautiful? So did he have some kind of sympathy for her and couldn't stand her living in such mental anguish and pain? Or, and this is the reason I lean to, is that he was inside, he was a popular football jock. Inside, did it really get to him that while they were going together, boyfriend and girlfriend, even though he didn't really treat her as a serious girlfriend, that she had cheated on him while she was going with him? And did that anger him, and was he seething on the inside? Apparently, he was angry because he did break up with her, and if he was just using her for sex, what does he care if she dates somebody else? He just used her like everybody else, but apparently that did get to him. This was 1961, and I guess, it wasn't acceptable to him for his girlfriend to, cheat on him with somebody else. It like hurt maybe his ego or whatever and made him angry. That's why I think he went through with this. Because to me, it was a murder, not a murder. I mean, not a like a not helping her commit suicide. It was just a straight up murder. So he picked her up from her house that night while she was wearing her pink pajamas after she came back from another date. And it was said that Betty actually said to her friends that she was going to call his bluff. Like, in other words, she really didn't think that he would go through with it. Like, apparently she knew that the plan was for them to meet up and do this, but she didn't think that he was going to go through with it. That's what she told her friends. So did she really think he was bluffing and she wanted to call him on his bluff, or was she really just so suicidal and depressed she just said that to her friends so they wouldn't worry or think nothing? And then she got in the car and her and Mac drove out to the country. And that's where he said supposedly they talked about killing her and that she was all for it and went along with it and willingly got down on her hands and knees and kissed him before he shot her and wrapped up her body and weighted it down and threw it in the pond. And just one of many, many reasons I don't buy his story is because it just seems to me like his story wasn't what she wanted, it was what he wanted. But he had that note that she had written in his pocket, so I guess he thought that would help him get off or get away with this. Because him saying that she kissed him before he killed her makes me think that is what he did. She didn't kiss him, that he kissed her before he murdered her, because that it just seems to me that Mac's a bit of a psychopath and would do that. Like he was maybe a narcissist. He couldn't handle that she had cheated on him, and he had pent up anger inside of him. So he just let her have it. And he kissed her, and then he just blew her head off. You you know, blowing somebody's head off with a shotgun isn't helping them commit suicide, a mercy killing, because they're suffering so bad with physical pain or something and there's no hope. So they just help them die quicker. She was just a young girl who obviously did have some mental health issues. And obviously she was promiscuous. So in my mind, that means that she was probably abused sexually at some point in her life, maybe by a family member, a father, um, an uncle, a family friend, or something. Something to me happened in her young life that made her grow into a promiscuous young woman, because just my life experience, every woman that I've known who went through a promiscuous period in high school were sexually abused as children, especially, back in the 1950s and 60s. Now, maybe not today, women are more free or free spirit or free spirited or open, but I don't think that was the case with her back then. I don't think, some people say, oh, she was before her time, she was a free spirit, she just liked to hang around with different boys and have sex. I don't think that was the case. I think she had mental health issues due to being abuse she suffered earlier on in her life. But I don't know that for sure, and I don't know who did abuse her if she was abused. I know she lived with her mother and father in Odessa, Texas, and I think her dad was a carpenter and her mother worked in retail, and she had 3 younger siblings, so she was the oldest child. So of course, when the police arrested Mac and they had the hearing, he did end up being tried for murder. Because even though she wrote that note, I mean, he admitted to shooting her and dumping her body and all that and trying to hide her body. When you do that, that's murder. That's not helping somebody commit suicide. And so they had a trial, but at the trial, it was said, and if the reports are true, it was said that the jury really didn't think a lot of Betty, probably because of her promiscuity, promiscuousness. But like I said, she was probably that way because she had been abused. And so it's sad that people just judge people for that, especially somebody so young. I mean, she was just 17, and obviously something went wrong in her life. And, being promiscuous isn't a crime, you know. So, but apparently the jury didn't think much of Betty because of that. And they thought a lot of Mac because, like I said, he was a popular football player in the community, and the teachers and school staff liked him, and adults liked him. Now, people liked Betty too, but at trial, when they found out about her promiscuity and all her dramatic writings and all the things she said about suicide and stuff, I guess they didn't just have any sympathy for her. So he was found not guilty. And it said that he went on to live a quiet life in Odessa. As far as I know, he didn't commit any other crimes. But what's well, there's a lot of things interesting about this case, but one thing I find interesting is the police said that when they questioned him and they found out what had actually happened to Betty, and he took them to her body in the pond and showed them where it was, they actually, made him go in and fetch her body to bring it up to the shore. And so, he stripped down to his undershorts and went in and got her body. And they said that he just had no emotion, no feeling or remorse or any kind of reaction to it. And so it just makes me think that he was just really a very unfeeling, uncaring kind of person, or he really had some hatred for her. Like I said, maybe a woman cheating on him was just something he couldn't handle, and it made him angry on the inside, and she didn't know how angry he was about it. She just knew he broke up with her, and she was desperately begging him to come back to her. And so, her being mentally ill or having all this, issues with being dramatic and stuff, and she gave him that letter. I think he used that letter against her to have a reason to kill her. To it, maybe, like maybe he pre-planned it, like, oh, I've got this letter, so if I kill her, I will never get in trouble for it. Well, if that's what he thought, and if a 17-year-old football player in 1961 was smart enough to think that way, it worked in his case because he was found not guilty. But this case has always haunted the people of Odessa, Texas. It is said that some students who attend or used to attend Odessa High School believe that Betty's ghost haunts the auditorium there. It said that some students there think whenever they hear a strange noise or see something strange, they think it's Betty's ghost. So who knows? But a lot of people believe she didn't get justice, and of course I do because she was clearly murdered. I mean, but some people think she asked for it. I mean, she literally asked to be killed, and that he was just helping her just out of stupidity or sympathy for her. But she was a troubled girl. But he should have known better, in my opinion, and you can't do that. Just so everybody knows, helping somebody kill themselves is against the law in the United States, and except for very rare circumstances where a doctor can help somebody in their life sooner than they would die naturally if they have some kind of terminal disease or something. This case was not that. So I just want to make it clear, if you have a schoolmate, a classmate, or a family member or a friend of any age talking about suicide, there is help. So please get them help. Call the suicide hotline or dial 911. There is help for people who are suicidal. If you're suicidal, there is help. If you know somebody who keeps talking about suicide, let somebody know. And if they're adults not in school, just call 911 or let one of their loved ones know. If they're in school, tell your school counselor, tell their teachers, tell the principal, let somebody know. But so that's the story of Miss Betty Williams, and it's just so sad, but it's interesting how, like, first of all, that if the stories her classmates told about her is true, how it's interesting, her personality, how dramatic she could be. People said she was a good writer, and obviously she was. I mean, her writing was very good, and notes or letters she wrote to people you can find online, and in her suicide letter, it is very well written and very just dramatic. Like her friend said, she's a very dramatic girl. And people, like I said, people said that she was a pretty girl and that she was liked. Some people said that she was a little snobbish, but some people said it was because she was so smart that she just seemed snobbish, but that she was smart and that she knew she was smart, or she thought she was smart. But there isn't any reports I've read that she ever did anything bad or wrong or tried to hurt anybody, and so other than herself. And so from her own words, so if she was telling the truth that she had tried to commit suicide, it's unfortunate that her friends didn't believe her. But who knows if back in 1961 there would have been enough enough help for her to get back then, because I mean, probably in a small town you would just think that, well, people, suicide's a sin, and so it's not openly talked about, and or it might have been something her parents didn't want to deal with. But her parents did say that she was a sensitive girl, so maybe she just felt, some people, I guess they're called emo, feel things more deeply than other people do, and so maybe she was just that type of personality. And then she was, of course, a very dramatic person. She was even in the drama club at school. She acted in school plays. And not long before she died, she went up for a part that she wanted and she didn't get it. So that was another reason why she was depressed. So her boyfriend Matt broke up with her and she couldn't get a part in a play at school play she wanted. And apparently she had other issues going on in her life. Maybe, I don't know if she was fighting with her parents, not getting along with her parents, And there is a reason, in my opinion, why she was promiscuous. She was looking for love in all the wrong places, or she had been abused, and a lot of women who are sexually abused become promiscuous, just from my life experience and women I've known. So, so you have her, and then she meets up with this, in my opinion, a narcissist or a psychopath or just a really bad boy named Mac, who, would use her for sex, but he didn't treat her well as a girlfriend or think highly of her enough to introduce her to his parents and to show her around school and to be like in an open relationship with her. But he did date her until he found out that she cheated on him, and then he dumped her. But he was just using her, so I don't see why he had to dump her if he was just using her like a lot of other boys were. But apparently, even though she dated a lot of boys or had a lot of, male friends in school, um, apparently she wanted Mac more than the others. Apparently she was, like maybe obsessed with him a little bit. And so she, write him letters trying to get him back and just did all kinds of things to try to get him back. And she may have been telling her friends that she was suicidal and tried to commit suicide because she wanted him to feel sorry for her to come back to him. I've also had life experience where people I've known will try to commit suicide or say they're going to commit suicide when they're going through a hard breakup with somebody. So maybe that was just what she was saying, but not, she really wasn't suicidal. She really didn't mean it. And then he took her up on the offer. So if it was true what she said to her friends that I'm going to call his bluff and she didn't think he would do it, well, she was wrong because he did do it. And I'm not so sure she really wanted to go through with it. But we'll never know, if there was a struggle or anything. I mean, obviously Mac wouldn't tell us if that happened. But anyway, Mac apparently lived a quiet life in Texas and passed away at the age of 75. He was 17 in 1961 and he lived to 75. And so that is the story of Betty Williams. And that's just a fascinating case. So if you've never heard of this case, I recommend that you research it online and find out all kinds of interesting stuff about it, like read her writings and stuff, because it's just I guess one of the reasons why it interests me so much is because, well, I guess because it's in the early 1960s when, things were different than they are now socially, and that today, like I think it was in Florida, we had that case where that young girl encouraged a boy through texts to commit suicide, and he did, but she didn't actually, shoot him or poison him or, help him, to my knowledge, actually commit suicide. She just texted and encouraged him with words. And so this case reminds me of that case, and that girl was sent to prison, and I think rightfully so. You don't want to encourage somebody to commit suicide. But in this case, Mac actually shot somebody in the head with a shotgun and tried to hide her body by weighting it down in a pond. And he only confessed to the police because the friends, told the police that he was the last person she was with, and he tried to lie and have an alibi, but the person who was supposed to be his alibi or whatever didn't, they told the police the truth, and so he ended up just having to tell the truth. But he said it was, by her own doing that she wanted to die. So he did end up being found not guilty, but I mean, he actually shot somebody to death, and he didn't spend any time in jail or prison. And the young girl in Florida, just through words helping somebody commit suicide, was sent to prison. I don't know if she's out yet or how long she's got to spend, but she was given a prison sentence, and she'll have a felony, I think, on her record for the rest of her life. So it's just interesting how, socially and, criminally things change. But like I said, in 1961, I guess, the jury didn't think much promiscuous high school students. And so she wasn't looked upon favorably by the jury, is what I understand from the research I did. So that's the story of Miss Betty Williams. Thank